So before we get started, I'm going to spray some of this Florida water just to clear the space. It smells really, really lovely. So next, the tools that I will be using for today. I will be using the Somnia Tarot by Nicholas Bruno. These cards are a little bit difficult to shuffle, so I shuffled them a lot off camera. So if I don't shuffle them as much during the readings, that's why. I am going to bring back Flower Magic this week. And when we go over to the members side of the channel, I'm going to be using this quartz crystal for the scrying. It's got lots of beautiful inclusions. It reacts really well with my rainbow filter that I have on my camera. I like it because it looks like some of the lights are in front of my face. So, water signs, if you would, just kind of relax. Take some deep, relaxing, healing breaths. Allow divine white light energy to come into you from source. And as you exhale, just kind of sigh out any tension you're holding on to, anything that is no longer serving you. Just go ahead and let it go. Let it go, let it go, let it go. And I'm just going to get my timestamp page set up here. You can see that's where I put all my timestamps. I'm a Virgo rising, so I'm very organized. All right, so let's start with the sign of Cancer. These cards are very large, and I have notorious baby hands. So it makes it difficult for me to shuffle properly. But don't you worry about that. Cancer, just relax. Let any concerns that you have float up to the forefront of your consciousness. And we will address them in the reading. Don't get too worked up about these things or too worried about them. Just kind of like let the energy sit there in the forefront of your mind. Don't really fixate on it. Got some very strong major arcana cards coming out for you so far, Cancer. And now I'm going to pull one of the flower magic cards. This deck is really cool because it also gives you the magical uses for the cards in this deck. It's got beautiful silver edges. And the card for you, Cancer. Sorry about that. This one. We have foxglove, poison, or as I also like to call it, poison. So foxglove is where they extract digitalis from, and digitalis can be used as a heart medication. So some of these things are very toxic in certain doses, but in very small doses can be therapeutic. There might be something like that in your life at this time, Cancer. So what we're talking about in the context of this deck, foxglove warns of poison in the form of gossip and rumors. Keep an ear out for what's going on around you and bring in your protection. Words can be pleasant, encouraging, uplifting, and all kinds of lovely, but they can also be loaded with poison, and those babies can sting really badly. Sticks and stones may not break your bones, but words can really hurt you. For whatever unknown and unfathomable reason, some human beings set out to hurt others, so be wary of those around you. You probably already know who this person is. Foxglove is also a card of fairies, and they bring their own danger. They're not all glittery winged pretties. They can be very pesky, actually. They must be treated with respect and caution, and they love nothing more than to mess with humans, causing chaos and havoc whenever and wherever possible. So, if you're using foxglove in your magic, you can grow them in your garden for protection. The bees adore the flowers. It works very well in keeping away the poison that comes with rumor and tittle-tattle by keeping it contained. So the urging is to not be reactive in these situations if they crop up in your life, Cancer. So here in the past position, we are looking at the Lover's card, and it's upright. I really love the photography in this deck. It's so vivid. So a lot of times in this deck, ladders represent an ascent into the heavenly space, the heavenly plane. Hi, countries of the world. Thank you for coming. We have one bush on fire, one bush unscathed. And behind their backs, what is it they have behind their backs again? The figure on the right, wearing kind of like a bridal gown, I believe that's a pomegranate or an apple. So we're looking at the mysteries of the garden. This could be the temptation of the apple. The pomegranate also represents knowledge. And then the gentleman here on the left has a pair of scissors in his hand. If you can see that, let me see how close I can get. That's pretty close. I think you can see that. So, the Lover's card can be about relationships. In this case, it could be a volatile relationship just because the nature of the first part of the reading with the Oracle card. It could be that your relationship is actually quite happy and that those around you are perhaps trying to stir dissent. So keep an eye out for that, certainly. The Lover's card also doesn't necessarily have to do with partnerships and relationships. It can also be about choice. So, very similar also to the Two of Swords in that respect. Oftentimes, the minor arcana cards are facets of some of these major arcana situations. So, for example, the Temperance card, sometimes the Two of Pentacles can be associated with that, or the Two of Pentacles and the Six of Pentacles with the Justice card. You see where I'm going with this. The Lover's card is also Gemini's card, so this has to do with duality as well, duality in situations. We've got the pomegranate of knowledge here. We have these scissors in his hand. We've got this burning bush behind him. So kind of like this quiet chaos brewing in the imagery of this card. Very fascinating deck. I love working with it. I just wish it was easier to shuffle with my tiny little baby hands. So, Cancer, here in the current situation, we have the Magician, and then we do have the Two of Cups crossing that. So the Magician is about manifestation. And you can see that all of the tools of the deck, the candle is wands in this deck. They use a lot of wands imagery or candle imagery for the wands. The Magician has all of these tools at their disposal. And this could be aided by a partnership. For those of you in romantic relationships, that could be represented by this Lover's card here. But the Two of Cups can also be a card about very close friendships. So it'd be a one-on-one type friendship. And it could be a friendship in which there are more things involved than just friendship, that it could be a business arrangement as well. And because the Two of Cups is crossing this Magician card, this relationship, whatever this represents, is going to be aiding you in your manifestations and your creations at this time. Down here in the Imam Silai, the Imam Silai is, I read the tarot cards kind of like laid out on a 12 houses or an astrological wheel. So down here at the bottom, we have the Imam Silai, and this is a lot of the current affairs that are going on right now in your life, um, and how directly then when we flip up here into the midheaven, where we have the goal and destiny depicted, that whatever that midheaven card is going to have kind of sprung forth from the Imam Silai, from the card that I have here in my hand, which is the Hermit card in the reverse. Cancer, you could be coming out into the world at this time in a way that you have not for a while. You might have gone into seclusion for a variety of reasons, not just the same old humdrum global situation that all of us are dealing with, but you might have really done a deep soul seeking journey and now are coming out in this new environment, coming out with the new knowledge that you have obtained from that soul searching. From your perspective, we have the Two of Coins. I was just talking about this card in the context of the Justice card and of Temperance. So the Two of Coins, as you can see, he's balancing on this stack of chairs and simultaneously trying to hold on to those two discs. So the Two of Coins is a card about balancing, a balancing act, and achieving balance. So this particular situation on this card is not particularly sustainable. At some point, he's going to have to take a break. But the Two of Coins is about achieving a balance, a homeostasis, an equilibrium in your life that is sustainable. From another person's outside perspective, we have the Queen of Wands. Now, she is showing up reversed. And when that happens, it sure can be a lot like this energy here with the foxgloves, people stirring dissent. The Queen of Wands in the reverse can sometimes be catty, can sometimes be a gossip monger, spreading things that are untrue just for the sheer drama of it. So, for you, Cancer, there might be a situation like this brewing somewhere on the periphery for you that you haven't even noticed before because you have been taking care of your own journey. And of course, you really don't need to give these people too much of your time, but it is good to be aware of what's being said about you. Now, here in the future, Cancer, we have the Two of Wands in the reverse. And when this Two of Wands shows up in the future position, in any of the future positions, whether it is the direct future or the midheaven or the final outcome, to me that indicates something that you will not be able to foresee, and therefore you will not be able to plan for it. Now, because this card is in the immediate future, it could be that you are heading into a planning phase. So that is possible. But again, because it's in the reverse like this implies, the implication is there that there are things that are yet unforeseen. So it could be that you do a lot of planning and still there are things that you end up not having planned for. because you didn't see them coming. Now, because we do have, the Queen of Wands here, we've got this card about people's poisonous intentions. It could be that the things that you are not planning for have to do with that drama. Because everything up until this point, and even so far as you're concerned, outside of your interactions with other people, everything looks really solid in the bottom left quadrant of your reading so far. Here in the hopes and fears, we do have the Two of Swords, and it's coming out in the upright. So this could have to do with the Lover's card. The Two of Swords is very much like the Lover's card. The Two of Cups is a lot like the Lover's card too. So we have a lot of the analogs for this major arcana card showing up in chronologically a similar time. That these are all things that are kind of in your current sphere of involvement. As far as your hopes and fears are concerned, you could be strongly hoping that you will be given a choice in some manner. So that is possible. The Two of Swords can also be about a bit of indecision, but typically that is up to the individual, how they react to decision making. If you're very good at decision making, then the Two of Swords shows that you will be ready to make this decision. If you're not very good at decision making, you have a tendency to waffle, we would probably see something more like the Four of Cups coming out, and it might be reversed. So because we have the Two of Swords and it's upright, I think you are quite ready to make whatever decision needs to be made. We have all of the twos here. So all of the twos speak of polarities. They speak of choices. They speak of you having two different paths that you can take, but we did get literally all of the twos coming out in your reading. Now, I did shuffle these cards quite well, and that was not like how they were arranged in the deck. So I promise you, it is an organic evolution of the spread that I have dealt. It's not something that would have happened except by accident. Here in the midheaven position. So this has to do with your goal or destiny. And we have the Nine of Cups showing up here in the reverse. Now, the Nine of Cups is a wish fulfillment card. It's showing up in the place of the goal or destiny. This wish fulfillment there's the potential for it there. The potential exists for that wish fulfillment. And it is a result of this inner searching. So if you know what you really, really want, then you get to zigga zigga. Sorry, that was a bad joke. I'll put a timestamp in the description if you want to skip it. I'm kidding, I'm not going to do that. The potential's there, but it's going to depend on this. So this gives us a little more insight into this Two of Wands card here as well. That the planning that you do is going to be the determining factor. And now the final outcome for you, Cancer, for your reading this week. course, these readings are timeless, so if you find it later, it might still apply to you. We have the Knight of Coins. People say that he is the slowest, but the Knight of Coins is very solidly rooted in the material plane, and he is bringing money in. So money could be very well coming in quickly to you. That might have to do with the wish fulfillment, but because he's upright, that money is going to be coming to you regardless. And it might be something that greases the cogs of progress. That money, you might anticipate that it is coming in. You might already know about that. So that you're planning, you can then plan for bigger and better things based on what will be coming in. All right, Cancer. Thank you for joining me. We will now be moving on to the sign of Scorpio. Scorpio. So let me just write down some timestamps here. And Scorpio, if you would, just kind of relax. You can take some deep breaths if you want to. You can close your eyes if you like. And just kind of let any of your concerns float to the forefront of your mind. Don't stress out about them too much. Just kind of let them sit there and wait patiently while we lay out the reading. And this will hopefully bring some insight into those issues. Very strong major arcana right out of the gate. And there we go. Okay. Now I'm going to shuffle for you the Flower Magic Oracle cards. And we'll pick one of those as well. Okay. So, Scorpio, the card that you got for today is Grass. It has to do with complications. Complications are not necessarily a bad thing. Things that are oversimplified could sometimes benefit from a little more detail, as a matter of fact. So, complications are not across the board going to work against your favor. Let's see what they say about Grass. Are you tying yourself in a knot? Or is someone else binding you and keeping you from what you really want to do? Complications present themselves in all kinds of situations. We can easily find ourselves bound to something without even realizing it, like a particular way of thinking, or even to a person. We place restrictions on how we think, act, or deal with others. Do you really need to involve everything and everyone? Loyalty is one thing, but being bound because of an unwarranted sense of duty is another. There could be a very simple answer to all of this. So, if you want to use grass for your magical working, you can use it for protection, psychic powers, not magic, abundance, and binding. You can weave a ball of grass and hang it up at home to provide protection, or you can plait, that means braiding, longer pieces of grass to make a witch ladder. Long stems of grass can also be used for bindings and to control a person's movements, to stop them from causing harm, or to tie something down. If you want a new job, a new dress, or maybe even a holiday, pick your intent and tie the energy into a knot. So, even Cancer could benefit a bit from heeding that advice. Scorpio, let's look into your past. We have the Chariot card, and it's reversed. So this would have been a victory that had happened some time ago. So now that cycle in your life has reached completion. The Chariot is also about mobility. So it could be that at some point in the past, you had a job where you traveled a lot that you greatly enjoyed, or there could have been some other mechanism by which you were traveling regularly. You could have also moved, and that relocation being a victory for you. We have implications of victory, and we also have implications of mobility. Here in the current situation, Scorpio, we have the Star card in the upright. That is such a strong major arcana energy. The Star card is your fellow fixed sign Aquarius's card in the major arcana. It has to do with achieving hopes and dreams. So, a very good card to anchor your reading around. This card is crossed by the Knight of Cups. And you can see he's not holding the reins of the horse. He's allowing the horse to kind of travel as it wants to. He's holding this umbrella, and he's also dumping water out of this bucket. So the Knight of Cups has a couple of different meanings. It can be about love or support, emotional support rushing into you. It can be like that. The Knight of Cups, though, can also be a card about trusting your gut and trusting your heart. So in situations where all of your wishes are being granted, still maintaining this ability to discern through intuition. With the Swords suit, we see discernment through logic. But the Knight of Cups, fire of water energy, it's a very interesting combination. We see discernment through one's instincts and one's emotions. So the Knight of Cups also, this is the final point that I'm going to make about this card, because it is water energy. This could be closely aligned to your energy, Scorpio. This might be one of the traits that you are recognized for. So down here, we're going to talk about the Imam Silai, which I read a 10-card Celtic cross that I put into a box, so it's laid out a little bit differently, and I imagine that the 12 houses are laid out over that Celtic cross, and sometimes I do put extra cards, but so the very bottom of the reading is the Imam Sili, and this is the foundation on which a lot of the events that are going to be taking place in the midheaven position. So whatever card we end up with up here, showing us your goal or destiny, a lot of those events are going to spring from the action down here in the Imam Sili. And here we have the Knight of Swords. So we have another knight talking to us about discernment. Now, the Knight of Swords is very cavalier with his discernment. This is more like a dichotomous key, seeing issues as being black and white, championing these issues, demanding justice for issues, but seeing them in a very polarizing context. Whereas the Knight of Swords and the King of Swords, so they're both about discernment, but the King of Swords is an extra level of discernment where we're able to really navigate these morally gray areas. The Knight of Swords is much more polarized, but we now have this Knight of Cups and the Knight of Swords coming out in your reading. So talking a lot about discernment, talking a lot about one's gut feelings, one's instincts, and one's moral high ground, defending one's moral high ground. Here, we're looking at your perspective on the situation. And we have the Page of Swords coming out. Now, I promise that I shuffled you these cards quite well. So anytime the cards are coming out next to each other like this, it's purely by luck. That's not even how I deal out this spread. So the Page of Swords can be finding out information about things. So you could be doing research about something. You can see, if you look very closely, that the Page of Swords is actually has a spyglass there, a telescope, and is looking at things from afar. Now, another thing I really love about this card that I did want to mention is the branches of the trees, where we have these leaf-bare branches. I often like to pick out imagery in the bare branches of trees. And that is one thing that I have kind of missed since moving out here to Los Angeles. We have a lot of palm trees, and of course, the effect is not quite the same. But for those of you who live near deciduous forests, I would encourage you to look into the branches of the trees, especially this time of year where all the leaves are gone, as a form of scrying. And perhaps getting information about these situations. So not only are you relying on your discernment at this time, but you're also going out and actively obtaining information about things. And from an outside perspective, we have the Seven of Wands. So the Seven of Wands, you can see this one figure up here on the hill, ready to defend themselves. And down here, we have all these figures bearing torches coming after them. The Seven of Wands implies, the implication is there, that you have reached a high vantage point that others envy. And now they are getting ready to come after you, and you're going to have to defend yourself. This can look all kinds of ways, of course. It doesn't necessarily mean that people mean to do you bodily harm, But if you've gotten extra popular on social media, you might find around yourself a certain number of hangers on, coattail riders, etc. Things like that. And that can happen in a workplace. You don't even have to be famous for things like that to happen. And it is a result of you having achieved these goals and dreams. And with this Knight of Cups energy, how we've been talking about all this discernment, all this fact finding that you're doing, that will be to your benefit in that position. Now, it does make for a lot of complications, right? So, the Cancer and the Scorpio readings this morning are really dovetailing quite beautifully. So, if you are a Cancer and you have Scorpio in your chart, or if you're a Scorpio and you have Cancer in your chart, or if you just feel attuned to the water signs in general, I would invite you to watch both readings because the information, there's a little bit of crossover between the two. Here in the future, we do have the Ace of Wands. And as I mentioned in the Cancer reading, the ladders in this deck kind of represent ascension between planes of existence. And so this figure is using the light, the energy from this torch to ascend into a new level of existence. The Ace of Wands is a very masculine kind of fertility and creative energy. It represents power as well. So, where we have this Ace of Wands in the reverse, in the future, this represents you coming to your own power and perhaps the beginning of a new creative cycle for you. But you don't see it yet. You don't see it yet. It's in the future and it's in the reverse. The potential is there. Here in the hopes and fears, we have the Page of Coins in the reverse. This is representative of insecurities that you might have about being offered opportunities to earn more money. So the Page of Coins can be a job offering, is representative of new opportunities within business and finance. So it could represent a job offer or an offer of a financial situation, like your broker approaches you and says, I really think you ought to invest in X, Y, or Z. It can also look like that. It can look like all kinds of opportunities for more money to come into you, passive income streams, all kinds of stuff. But when we see this showing up in the reverse in your hopes and fears, that speaks to insecurity. And it speaks to you, Scorpio, feeling like you are not able to create those opportunities for yourself. But I think that could be changing very soon. Now we're going to talk about the midheaven position. And here we have the King of Wands, charismatic leader, very attractive to others. This doesn't necessarily have to be a man, it can be any kind of, however you classify yourself, gender-wise. The energy of the King of Wands is air of fire. So it is a fire sustainably stoked by air. He's seated on a throne in the midst of all these candles, and he's holding in his mouth, or rather has on his face, this illumination. That spark that creativity. So this energy is very similar to this pure elemental fire that we see with the Ace of Wands. It's like the Alpha and the Omega, mastery from A to Z. You will really get whatever your creative endeavor is. You will really have a full spectrum to work with. So some of you could be artists, but all kinds of jobs and situations require creativity. So that's going to apply to whatever field you are in, because we do have the Star card coming out here. It could be that some of you are rising to prominence or rising to fame, and your charisma will be serving you well in the future. But these are choices that you are going to have to make, because these potential energies are showing up reversed. So it's going to be contingent on your own actions, Scorpio. And finally, we have the Queen of Coins, Queen of Pentacles. She's showing up reversed, so we have another potential energy here. And I do think that because we've had your oracle card come out as grass and having to do with complications, remember that I also mentioned that grass is very good for binding magic. So binding magic is very useful and can be very effective, but you really have to be careful how you use it, because once you bind things to yourself, it does create a lot of complications. So that is what we're looking at here with these potential energies. This Queen of Pentacles is a very fertile energy, and it is a very good energy for bringing in material wealth. So all of these energies are about potential future successes and are all going to be contingent on your ability to bind things to yourself with discernment. We had these knights talking a lot about discernment. And in fact, the Knight of Swords is also very good at cord cutting. So anyone who has bound you to situations, if any of these people are coming after you, you will be able to wield that sword of discernment and cut those ties. All right, Scorpio, well, that concludes your reading for this week. And now we will be moving on to the sign of Pisces. Pisces. And Pisces, if you would just relax, you can take some deep breaths if you want to. And sigh out any tension or stress that has been holding you back. Allow any of your concerns to gently float to the forefront of your consciousness. Don't stress out about them. Just let them sit there quietly and wait. And we will get into your reading very shortly. I'm just going to give the cards a bit of a shuffle. Mm-hmm. Yeah, quite a few swords in your reading this week, Pisces. And I'm going to pull for you one of these flower magic oracle cards. Yeah, this is the one. Okay. Pisces. The oracle card that I've pulled for you today is the white rose for empowerment. Empowerment, empowerment. So let's find out a little bit more about that, shall we, Pisces? Here we go. This card is all about you. It's about self-love, acceptance, and that acceptance then leading to empowerment. Relax, center yourself, and get ready to take on the world. It's about giving yourself permission to be in charge, totally own your own space, be in control of all that you do, think, and say. Whatever needs to be sorted out in your life, you're ready. So go get 'em, tiger. The world and all the humans in it are not perfect, and accepting that you are not perfect either is a huge step forward that will help you live a more peaceful and productive life. So if you want to use white rose in your magic, it is a good choice to represent the mother goddess and for any workings where mysteries need to be delved into. The petals have long been associated with love, so they work well for any kind of love spell. You can use a pink rose for magic or for friendship, red for passion, and white is good for peace and protection. Sprinkle rose petals in your bath water for a balancing, relaxing, and love-filled bath. Very sweet smelling. So Pisces, here in the past, we have the Seven of Coins. You've put on a lot of hard work to a situation. This could be at a job. This could be one of your own personal endeavors. Maybe you're starting your own small business. Whatever this is, you've put in a lot of hard work and you've sat there and done a lot of accounting about where your time and energy has gone as well. So here in the current situation, we have the Nine of Swords, and it's crossed by the Ten of Wands. So I am not surprised that that empowerment oracle card has come out, because the Nine of Swords shows me that you're very anxious about something. This can be sleepless nights. It can be oversleeping as a method of avoidance, anxiety, guilt, fear. And this is coming because of burdens. See here on the Ten of Wands, burdens and oppression. This person has this rope wound around their waist that if they are to stand up, they could become entangled in this candelabra. And as you can see, the candelabra is full of these lit candles. It could be very dangerous. Get set on fire in the most awkward and humiliating fashion possible. So here in the Imam Silai, this is going to represent all of the events down here, kind of between where I look. I have like kind of this idea of the 12 houses superimposed over my 10 card Celtic cross spread. So the card down here in the Imam Silai is going to be all of the current events that are eventually going to be leading to what we look at in the midheaven position of goal and destiny. And down here in the Imam Silai, we have the Eight of Wands. And this card is in the reverse. So I feel like you've been waiting for this ending to come. Could be an ending to these burdens. We have a lot of heavy kind of wands energy coming out for you very early in the reading. So this could also be burdens can be things that you have brought upon yourself also. Like perhaps some people were laid off at your job, or they were out sick, or they were out on vacation. And all of those responsibilities kind of ended up getting dogpiled on you. And so you are waiting for an ending to this. It could be emotional burdens from others also, or obligations. It could represent family obligations. If you have family members who have been ill and you've had to care for them, and you're kind of waiting for an end to this situation. But it looks like it has been slow moving. Typically, the Eight of Wands is a very fast moving energy. So, where we see it reversed in the current situation, it says you're going to have to wait just a little bit longer. From your perspective, we have the Eight of Swords. And this is showing up in the upright, showing that you do feel trapped by these things, that you feel restrained by them. It is possible for this person to continue walking forward. Now, they are in a swamp, so it is difficult to know what they are walking into. It is also possible, we don't know exactly how they're bound, but perhaps they could free their arms and remove that blindfold. But maybe they don't know that. Maybe if they could see the way forward, they would be able to proceed and they would no longer be trapped. But it's very important with the Eight of Swords not to take on a victim blaming mentality, especially when that victim blaming is extending to the self. What we really need from you right now, Pisces, we're on Pisces now. What we need from you right now, Pisces, is this empowerment. From the outsider's perspective, looking in, we have the King of Swords here. Now, the King of Swords, I often read as very similar to the Justice card in the Major Arcana. A lot of the Minor Arcana cards share attributes of the Major Arcana. This King of Swords could be somebody who is not being very fair to you right now. And this would be the kind of person who would use the letter of the law to oppress you. This is the kind of person who will go out of their way to find every loophole that they can to take advantage of their working relationship with you. So be very aware of that, Pisces. The King of Swords is somewhat separate from the Queen of Swords in that the Queen of Swords in that position will also try to gaslight, try to manipulate. The King of Swords is not necessarily about manipulation in the reverse like this, but is very much about the murders and assassinations, mergers and acquisitions type energy. So here in the future, we have the Strength card. So this really is you coming into your empowerment, Pisces. really taking a step forward in this situation, really finding your way forward. So if you are going through a bit of a tough time right now, what you need to understand is that it is so important for you to maintain faith in yourself, because that's going to be your ticket out of this situation. Have a lot of compassion for yourself at this time. Here in the area of hopes and fears, we have the Seven of Swords in the reverse. So this is somebody making off with all of this loot and all of these swords. It's deception. And where we see this card showing up in the reverse, we're looking at someone seeing the truth of a situation, seeing through all of the subterfuge and lies. And so in this situation, that is exactly what you are hoping for. And hoping that that will help you free yourself as well. We do have 8, 9, and 7 diagonally across the reading. And we do have something at the ending that is also very strongly worded sword. Here in the midheaven position, this is something that you're not expecting. We have another wand here. So it could be this ending that you're waiting for. And that is represented by this 3 of Wands in the reverse. So things are going to be returning to you, but you don't see that yet. And the potential for this situation is here, but it's going to be contingent on how you handle what is going to happen. The final outcome that we have, and this again is diagonal from the King of Swords in this reading, we have the 10 of Swords in the reverse. Now, the 10 of Swords is a very strongly worded minor arcana card, right? It's a very strong piece of imagery that this person has been just absolutely run through. This is a definitive ending to something, however. So it might not have been the closure, it might not have been the satisfying ending that you were hoping for, but it will be an ending. And the potential for this is there. Again, these things are going to be contingent upon your ability to believe in yourself. So Pisces, Scorpio, Cancer, thank you so much for joining me today for the water sign readings. I hope you enjoyed them. Please do like, share, and subscribe down below. I do add timestamps after the live. Thank you. We will be heading over to the member side of the channel to do the crystal scrying if you're interested in that. But of course, your viewership is appreciated, however you choose to extend that. And I look forward to seeing you again